Ethical leadership is a fundamental role in every organization. It inspires and creates a culture that promotes and values ethical behavior. Leaders expand ethical decision-making much further than simply increasing profits or production for organizational success. Instead, leaders also apply ethics in leadership, decision-making, and management styles. Choosing to follow an ethical path will create a positive experience for everyone involved in an organization and also improve the functioning of the business. In contrast, unethical leaders can encourage corrupt and unethical acts within their organization. As a result of using unethical, influential leadership tactics, an organization can suffer. This presentation will discuss Dennis Muilenburg's negative influential tactics, how they have adversely impacted Boeing, and what I would have done differently if I were a leader in that situation. Ethical leadership has the ability to be very impactful on an organization. Making decisions based on the core values of an individual or code of ethics set by an organization as a whole ultimately inspires employees to do the same, creating a productive and positive environment. Leaders set the tone for organizational goals and behavior and are often in a position to control many outcomes that affect employees. Unfortunately, leaders who are in power also possess unethical leadership tactics that can influence harmful and ineffective work behavior. Unethical leadership is defined as behaviors conducted and decisions made by organizational leaders that are illegal and/or violate moral standards and impose processes and structures that promote unethical conduct by followers. Dennis Muilenburg is the former president and chief executive officer of the Boeing Company, which is the largest aerospace company and top U.S. exporter. Boeing is a leading manufacturer of commercial jetliners, defense, space and security systems, and service provider of the aftermarket support. Boeing supports airlines as well as provides products and tailored services that include commercial and military aircraft, satellites, weapons, electronic and defense systems, launch systems, advanced information and communication systems, and performance-based logistics and training. Muilenburg started his career with Boeing in 1985, and after a 30-year career and holding many executive positions, he was a top candidate and promoted to the CEO position. In 2018, two Boeing 737 MAX airplanes crashed and killed all passengers on board. The black boxes that were later recovered indicated design errors from questionable engineering performed by the manufacturer Boeing that created pilot confusion. Muilenburg was the CEO of the company during both the Lion Air Flight 610 Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crashes. Investigations following both crashes found a faulty sensor was involved. This sensor was a new automatic anti-stall system affecting the pitch of the plane that Boeing failed to mention or failed to require retraining procedures to properly educate pilots. Boeing assumed pilots would immediately recognize the problem and override the system with manual flight controls, and in doing so would not require exceptional piloting skills or strength. The flight crew lacked key information about the MAX system since none was included in training or in the air flight craft manual. It took a year for Muilenburg to publicly answer questions regarding the crashes and finally spoke during 2 days of congressional hearings. These hearings displayed that mismanagement and lack of leadership from Boeing specifically. Investigators discovered that Boeing downplayed safety concern, hid design flaws from regulators, and tried to cover up its mistakes and missteps. Boeing also withheld important information from pilots and regulators, and that FAA oversight was sorely lacking as the agency relied heavily on designated Boeing employees during the certification process. The hearings produced further evidence that Muilenburg knew for 2 years of the problems with the 737 MAX designs before the planes were cleared to fly. The House Transportation Committee released a redacted email showing Boeing knew this was a potential problem back in 2015, 2 years before the plane was cleared by the FAA. Pilots were never informed the system existed, as Boeing told the FAA that the system was minor and did not require training. As a result of this, the new sensor system was not included in the flight training or manuals for the new plane. Finally, after the first crash, Boeing and Muilenburg knew the problem and ignored it. He told Congress he didn't fully read the messages and turned them over to company lawyers. Muilenburg continued to ignore the problem and did not train or advise pilots on the new systems. He allowed more planes to be sold and fly, knowing there was a problem after the first crash. Because of this, a second plane crashed and more lives were lost. The second crash, the Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, occurred only a few months after the Lion Air flight. Much like the first crash, the Ethiopian Airlines flight pilots were also unaware and unprepared to troubleshoot the issue. Muilenburg was completely unaware of the problems. He was completely aware of the problems with the new flight control systems and failed to take action. Muilenburg acknowledged that after the first crash and before the second, he knew about internal messages between technical pilots at the company that discussed problems with the MAX system. Because of this, Muilenburg created a culture where engineers and leaders overlooked problems. Boeing's leadership decisions empowered Muilenburg and the company to create a culture where profits were put ahead of the safety of the global traveling public. Boeing developed MCAS around the assumption that if the system activated incorrectly, pilots would recognize that in 4 seconds and would know how to cut off the system even though the company never told the pilots the system existed. Muhlenberg persuaded the FAA that the system was basically just run in the background and that nothing needed to be included in the manuals and no training needed to take place. There is also evidence that pilots would need more reaction time than what was allotted. Muhlenberg's unethical influence tactics during and after both crashes clearly showed the danger of too much power in an organization and misdirected values. The most significant impact of the fatal Boeing 737 MAX crashes were the hundreds of lives lost due to the poor and unethical leadership. Additionally, as a result of both the Lion Air flight and Ethiopian Airlines flight, Boeing grounded the 737 MAX. This had a huge impact on Boeing, other airlines, and suppliers, and created industry-wide chaos. For example, American Airlines had to cancel 115 flights per day, potentially affecting 23,000 passengers daily. Foreign airlines were also affected as well and had to lay off many employees because of the grounding. Cancellations had a huge impact on the airline industry's bottom line. In regards to Muhlenberg, Boeing stated a change in leadership was necessary to restore confidence in the company moving forward. It took Boeing's board of directors 10 months and pressure from the public sector to eventually fire Dennis Muhlenberg as CEO of Boeing. If I were a leader during this situation, there are many things I would have done differently. To begin with, I would have informed and educated pilots on any new systems being installed in the planes. Extensive training would be mandatory for any and all pilots flying these planes. Pilots would be required simulator as well as in-flight time before taking on passengers. All manuals would also be updated, mandatory to read, and require a signature and test upon completion of reading. I would then be open and honest with the FAA about the new systems, trainings, and updated manuals, even in the face of delay or added expense. I would also encourage a company-wide culture change to value employee feedback and management and leadership cooperation. In the event that any crash took place under my supervision, the planes would have been grounded immediately. Having leadership tactics in place that value safety, training, and feedback are essential to the success of employees and the organization. Thank you.